are joined here for the Happiness Advantage open discussion roundtable. It's actually been 2 weeks since the Head Heart Festival 2021, where we brought together a range of speakers across the globe to bring alive the subject of happiness at work. And we had about 1,200 people attending from 35 different countries, really talking about how do we bring happiness to work. So today we're going to kind of up level that a little bit and start discussing, brainstorming, and really refining why the happiness advantage is the need of the hour at our workplace now. Some of the findings that we've had actually recently from research from the KPMG revealed that actually 94% of our employees are feeling more stress since this pandemic. So today we have with us on this panel discussion, we have Karen Bell, the founder and Chief Happiness Officer at Happitude. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Great to be here.
We also have Dr. Ilya Gorgoras. He's the president at the Happiness Centre, so welcome.
Thank you.
We also have Sahil Nahar, who's the Senior Associate Director at KPMG. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we also have Min, who is the founder at Happy Workplace and also a happiness coach for Happitude. So welcome, Min.
Hello, it's great to be with you again.
And I'll be the moderator today. My name's Lorraine Stamp, and I'm also a UK partner for Happitude, helping people to discover happiness at work. So I thought what we'll do is kind of just start the session really about kind of what's that mood and what's that feeling out there. So if you were to kind of think about what is that current feeling in organizations at the moment, what does that actually look like? Karen, how does it feel out there when you're talking to people in organizations?
See, the one feeling, if I need to mention here, I would say there's a feeling of confusion. That's the one common feeling that I see everywhere. Confusion is actually because every time you call this a new normal, some new some new wave come up, and then you still don't know, is this a new normal? What's a new normal? The definition is not yet clear. People are still wondering. Companies who are like claiming that okay, we'll be moving to the permanent work from home model or a remote working model, and they started calling the people back to the work. So there's a confusion on that front as well. And again, people don't know. There's an uncertainty which is all over, still prevailing even after about more than it's going to be 2 years now. Still that uncertainty is there, and I think that confusion is something which I can see commonly. And I tell you the good thing about this: confusion is always a very good thing if you ask an Indian. Why? Because confusion always break that mindset that I know what needs to be done, I know this is the way. It always break that mindset. The moment you're confused, you start seeking for clarity. Otherwise it's an assumed clarity that this is what it is. But now this is a time when there's a level playing field for each and everyone. Even if you're a big company, you're a small company, your challenges are same. You're experimenting on the same level. How to deal with the remote workplaces, how to work with the hybrid work model. Everybody is dealing with the same challenges. Even as a coach or as a consultant, you are a very well established coach with a big brand name, but even you don't know what to do. So your struggles are also same like a new coach or consultant who has just joined the business. So I think it's a level playing field because of that. So I think this is my take on this.
I can really relate and resonate with that. I think confusion is almost like a delicious emotion, because it takes us back to actually we're all in this together, and what is it that we need to strip away in order to come back to sometimes the base, that base, and realign. Dr. Evia, what's your thoughts of kind of what's that feeling out there at the moment?
No, I love the statement about confusion. To me, confusion leads to innovation. So I actually like confusion. And, when I speak with organizations, we try to avoid the term the new normal because it's so overused, because the new normal keeps changing. Especially with senior leaders, I talk to them about the next normal, meaning 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line, the biggest challenge facing organizations right now is really how to ensure the mental well-being. It used to be the mental and physical well-being of their employees. I think most organizations have done a fairly decent job in dealing with the physical well-being of their employees, but they have not mastered yet the mental well-being of their employees. So you're seeing, depression, anxiety, stress, PTSD to so many people. Mind you, these are people that did not have pre-existing conditions for the most part. So this is a new area for them. And yes, they are confused. I think the end zone, like to use a sports term, keeps moving. So just when you think we're about done, okay, we're going to return to some kind of normalcy, there's an extension, 3 months, 6 months, third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave now. And people are exhausted, they're tired, they're sick of it, honestly. And it's very hard. I mean, we're very resilient as human beings. We can handle crisis, but we're facing multiple crises at the same time with no end in sight, and that's very difficult for employees and for their leaders, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's a real feeling, when I'm talking to clients at the moment around, having to be more spontaneous in decisions, where somebody's had quite a lot of planning in place for the next 3, 6, 12 months. Actually, they're having to take this more agile and spontaneous approach to life and work. So yeah, I can relate with that as well. And Sahil, what's the kind of feeling where you're at, and what are you hearing?
No, I think there's some very good deliberations happening so far, starting from confusion. But I think what's deep rooted is the entire ecosystem that has become so chaotic. And because there is chaos, there is a lot of clutter. And when chaos and clutter become all pervasive in our daily lives, it leads to a lot of anxiety. And I think
Yes.
while, of course, we touched upon the whole aspect of saying there is confusion, and from confusion creates innovation and clarity emerges, I think fundamentally we need to help people build resilience as a life skill. Because what's going to become very important is the head and the heart, and more importantly, the behavior in the manner in which we behave need to be congruent. And when there is a lack of congruence between the head and the heart because of all the chaos, because of all the complications, and because of all the clutter around us, it really becomes difficult to live a daily life.
Yeah, that's a great actually way of looking at it, isn't it? That chaos and clutter. I think it can relate to a lot of aspects of kind of work and home as well. And what is it that we need to do less of in order to increase to do more of? I think that's a very mindful way of kind of approaching things to kind of get that resilience back. And to help, what Dr. Elia was talking about, the burnout and exhaustion as well, because if we keep trying to go at 100 miles an hour, actually, maybe we need to take some time to kind of pause in order to restart. And, again, from that head and heart perspective, really, really key. Min, what's the feeling with you, and how's things where you are?
Well, I should say that, I mean, it was first, that it was the shock of the pandemic. So people were shocked; they did not know what to do, and it's just like when we see the curve for the change is just like the loss curve. So first you are shocked and you don't know what to do, and the first thing that you do is survive. And so the companies, they were just like surviving. They were just like making sure that they were surviving at first. But now, as time passed and as the situation evolved, now is the time. I think it's been like a couple of months that they realized, okay, this is not changing. This is like, this is here to stay. I mean, the change is here to stay. So this that did not happen because of the pandemic, but this was already happening, but it got accelerated by the pandemic. So they said, okay, so what's next? And then it was like the needs pyramid. So at the lowest level, they were safe, they survived. Now they're just climbing up the ladder, and they realize that to do so, they have to care for their employees, and they have to make their employees happy, because they cannot make their employees happy with the wages, the salary. I mean, that's, and or just like, with the Google offices. So that's already outdated. So this is the era of listening to your employees, trying to make sure that they feel okay, that they feel happy and content with the work that they do. So now all of the companies, like, I would say at the beginning of the pandemic, the companies that I was consulting, they were coming to ask for some support to build their policies, the remote work policy, the hybrid, how to just like, revamp their processes. But now they are coming to ask for happiness. So how to make their employees happy, because we had a great resignation. So that's a fact, and that's happening. People are just like leaving their jobs, and they're not leaving their jobs because they don't need the money, but they're leaving their jobs because they want to see the purpose, they want to feel the purpose, they want to wake up to a morning where they would be able to, where they have the space to make their purpose come to real. So that's how I see it from my perspective.
That's, yeah, that is, yeah, I can really, again, thinking about that journey for people that they've been on in the last 2 years, you can definitely see it. One of the other things that I've really kind of noticed is some leaders have kind of gone too compassionate and lost almost like the head decision, because it's almost been like this forced way of thinking. We need to be more compassionate, we need to be more compassionate, but bringing that head and heart connection is really, really key. And I think, it's okay to be human, bringing that authentic self to work, but managing it in a really wise, compassionate way, because obviously at the end of the day, it's about compassion and profit. We are in business to kind of make money and have a great, happy, engaged workforce. So what's the potential risk? So we're currently still in this pandemic with no certainty at the moment. What's the risk if we carry on doing what we've been doing in the past? So over to Karen.
See, one of the biggest risk is those who are, maybe look like, stable businesses, who's kind of scale up already in a bigger ones. They'll be the one, if they don't start, looking at the, like bringing the listening to for the employees, listening to their needs and what they want, and bringing their heart into it, and they'll be the one who will be at risk of losing their revenues, their market position, and their reputation as such, because the great resignation is not about, okay, even if 30% attrition rate, people are just leaving me and I can continue to hire more people. How long? How long you will continue to hire people? Because if that, at the same time, especially in the IT industry, the biggest challenge is, there is a more and more demand, for the IT thing, because everything is moving more. Everybody wants more technology, and more advanced in the technology. But at the same time, people are leaving their jobs and their organizations. So this is a risk of, which is going to cost them really, really very high in the long term. And especially, this is not just going to impact people or the organization. This is also impact, on a larger, society as such, because when an employee, is anxious at work, the whole family is impacted along with that. And now today I don't want to go to work, I don't care about the money, but I have to pay my bills. So I go through all the tension and the stress and the worry and everything. Everybody in my family also has to deal with that. So this is something. So at the same time, though, that though there is a risk, but at the same time, this is a time when, I think you briefly touched upon this. Like, this is a time when mindfulness is not just a choice or an option. This is the need of the hour. As you have to be more spontaneous. I think Sahil also touched this, that that anxiety is going to rise. That keeping yourself at balanced in your mind, in your heart, and your emotion. That's an ideal thing that everybody is now focusing on, and those, especially the leaders, those who can do that, you know, they will be the one who will be, I think they will be little lesser at risk, I feel so.
Yeah, and that whole linkage between how we feel at work and how we then interact with the rest of our life, is so important. And Dr. Elia, what do you face? What do you see those risks are if we don't change the way we are currently working?
Well, I think as leaders, and that goes throughout the organization from the C-suite all the way down to somebody that only has one direct report. To me, everybody's a leader, right? According to that definition. That the way that we need and must show up now is very different than the pre-pandemic era. So even if you're not physically seeing your employees, but you're checking in with them, let's say on a weekly basis, it's not enough anymore to say, how are you doing? That's not enough anymore because most people are not going to open up to you and be honest with you, which has led to a lot of the great resignation. You need to lean into the camera like real close and say, how are you really doing? And how's your family? And how are your kids? And what can we do as leaders in this organization to support you? And if you want to get some extra credit, you have to be much more transparent and vulnerable in your own way and say, by the way, my kids haven't been to school for 9 months. It's driving my wife and I crazy. I'm really anxious. I've been kind of depressed. I've been kind of down. That kind of authentic communication from the leadership perspective all of a sudden opens up the other person and says, oh, you know what? We're all in this together. If you come across like everything is fine in my world, but how you doing? That's not going to work because that's a huge disconnect. So we have to decide, am I willing to be and have those conversations? I call them hot conversations, HOT, honest, open, and transparent. And I would even add vulnerable to that. Then we connect with our employees. If we don't do that and we kind of standoffish, then we're going to lose them. So we have to show up different, and we have to mindfully and consciously decide, I'm going to open up my heart and share that with my employees.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually it relates to something I was reading this week about that language around, we talk about an employee experience, but actually it's a human experience. It's, that whole connection of, that leadership down, are we actually showing and leading the way as to actually the importance of that human connection? Sahil, what's kind of going on in your mind around what are those risks that we're facing if we don't change the way we currently lead?
I think we've been through generations where we've had Kodak moments. And I don't think we want to be in that space. While that was a very happy moment of clicking a picture that used to be called as a Kodak because it was so nice, because you had a limited reel in the camera and you didn't want to waste it. So you would ensure you get the perfect picture. But I think now it's all right to not be okay. It's okay
Yes.
to not be okay. It's okay to have that dark circle there. It's okay to have the scar. It's okay to have the wounds. The beauty is if you stand up and show up, and that is important. And if you can embrace people for who they are without judging where they came from or without judging why are they the way they are, but focusing on the impact that they are creating, I think as very, very beautifully put by Prof. Doc, actually going to be connecting heart to heart and not just doing a formality by saying, hi, how are you? When the real thought in my head is, why did not finish that task that I gave you? It's an escalation. People can see through that, how are you? And therefore, say it when you mean it. Otherwise, save the breath. Back to you.
Yes, because people can see through that. You're totally right. People can see through that if you're not authentic.
Yeah, it is. It's the real version of life, isn't it? Not this fictional tale that we kind of hide behind. Absolutely. And Min, what's the kind of risks you think that may appear, if we don't do anything different?
Yeah, I totally agree with the importance of the authenticity. And I think that's going to be the most important thing that's going to be predominant in this new era, let me say. And the thing is, if the company is not, or if the leader is not acting that way, and we just like saw it during the COVID time as well. So the companies who had more frequent communication from their leaders teams, they were the companies who got higher scores with their employee feedback. And so people just like showed the leaders that yes, we want to be communicative, and yes, we want you to be authentic, we want you to be open with us. So no matter what happens, the people just like ask for being openness, and also like the feedback. And you know how like it's evolving, the leadership is evolving. Now we are talking about leaders being coaches and not bosses. So the
Hmm.
approach is evolving. So, and being a coach is not the one who is telling you what to do, but just like giving you the space, providing you the space for you to be at your best self. So I think that is where we are going now. Actually, that's what where we are at this
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
And if, yep, sure.
No, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
go
no.
ahead.
Once you're done, I just want to add one thing. The when you're talking about the risk, I feel everyone here agrees that there's only one risk that's going to be there, and the risk of carrying that plastic face which everyone was carrying at the workplace, that's going to fall off, and then
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
only risk what I see. If that does not fall off, your business is going to fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
It's
your
a very,
business
very good
is
point.
going to fall off. I mean, that's the risk. So
Mhm.
because before this, I mean, everyone was just like focusing on the outcome, and it was just like the leads that you were generating, or it was like your revenue. But this is now it's like a artifact. So the
Mhm.
thing is, I mean, you have to. That's not a question anymore. Just like
Mhm.
caring for your employees, being authentic, being like a coach to your employees. That's not something. That's not a good to have thing, that's a
Mhm.
must thing now.
Yeah.
So, and in case we are not acting from that level of like being a coach, or just like listening to our employees, it's not good. The business is not going to be sustainable. And no matter, like, I'm now talking with young people and fresh graduates, and they are not applying to big companies. That's over. I mean,
Mhm.
people are not applying. The youth is there. They're just like startup minded people, and this is the age of this new generation. This is not the age of the older generation. So we have to adapt to this new way of living. And we were just like adapting ourselves to the lifestyle. Like, I mean, think about the Instagram, like the Instagram stories. They just disappear in 24 hours. That's that
Mhm.
quick. I mean, why can we not change the way we work? I mean, this had to happen just like even before a pandemic, and it was happening, but
Yeah.
now it's inevitable. I mean, now there's no other way. So you either
and
do it,
and
or you're just like
yeah.
you'll lose it.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that we just can't carry a caring and loving face at the work. You just have to be a caring and loving person and compassionate person.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
because life is not compartmentalized. There's no work life balance anymore. It's a work life harmony, work life integration which is
Yep.
Yeah.
happening, because there is only one life. If I am not I'm a mean and selfish person, I try to be very nice and compassionate at my workplace, but not in my relationship, that's not going to work, because
Mhm.
that's what the butterfly effect is. If I how I do one thing, it shows up in the other areas of my life as well. So
Yeah.
so there's no other way. Whatever we are discussing, and I think we all are pointing towards this, that there's no
Mhm.
other way than going inward and working on yourself as a leader,
Yeah.
before you're actually pointing fingers at somebody and saying that, you need to be listen to others. Oh, I need to be genuinely interested in you if I want to listen to you. If I'm not interested in you, I would not want to listen to you, because I think I'm smarter than you know so that has to come naturally to the leaders, and that can only happen when they turn you know on this
Yeah.
side. The finger turns this side, not that side.
Yeah.
And that's a great saying in itself, isn't it? How I do one thing, I do everything. That it is about that presence that we are, that whole how we show up in the world. So let's kind of step it up a gear now and think about, so how do we shift people's thinking, so from how we used to work to how we need to kind of be working going into 2022, knowing what we faced over the last couple of years. How are we going to encourage leaders of organizations and employees to really think about shifting that perspective? Over to you, Karen.
See, I think that this is a thing that's already happening, I guess. I think I normally say this thing that people do two things out of either they are wise, they do it because they see that if I continue doing this, there's a cost I need to pay, or they are wounded. Now they are wounded, they have no other choice. I need to change my ways, I need to bring this into my life. Now I need it. I think that there are businesses, there are people who are at the second stage now, and this is more than a luxury. This is an urgency. This is urgency of the matter now. And everybody, every business leader, every organization, everybody has started realizing this, that and I think the conversation and discussion which we are having now, I think before the COVID, if you're having a conversation like this, it's good to have it. But now people are interested. They want to listen to you. They're reaching out to you, and they want to have some solutions and some tools that they can go bring into their organization and for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, the shift is definitely happening. It's what else can we do to kind of shift that gear to allow people that space to say, that we need to be doing something differently. So, Dr. Elio, what would you say?
All I can say is what companies are asking me to speak about. I'm an international keynote speaker, so I work with from Fortune 100 companies to nonprofits, and the requests are very similar, which to me is fascinating, right? And the request basically is this: how do we help our employees navigate the challenges that we are facing, while at the same time maintaining employee engagement, productivity, morale, and happiness? Where before, this conversation would always be like a fluff or a lighthearted
Yes.
or a nice to have, but now it's a necessity.
Yeah.
Now, companies are there to make money, to be profitable. Obviously, if they're not profitable, they're going to close the doors, right? So, as a leader, if I'm going to ask my direct report, listen, I really need you to work an extra 5 or 10 hours, I need to explain the why.
Yeah.
It's not enough to say, well, you got to get this report, I got to get this done by Friday at 5 p.m. No, you have to say, if we don't consistently meet those numbers, I will be forced to reduce the workforce by 10%. And, this company is like a family. I don't want to cut 10% of my workforce, because that means that's going to impact, hundreds of families. And I care about you, and I care about your family. You must explain the why you need that. Because if you don't, it just seems like it's kind of old school. Well, get the job done. I'm paying you, so get that report to me, but Friday by 5 p.m. If you don't explain the why and are vulnerable and open that way, you're going to struggle. When people understand the why, they're much more willing to work a little bit harder, perhaps, and to accommodate, and to say, you know what, yeah, or maybe this month I'm not part of the 10%, but if we continue going down this path, maybe 3 months from now, I am going to be part of the 10% that's going to be cut. So I need to do my part to support this family and to support my leadership, right? But as leaders, we have to communicate and explain the why.
Yeah, I totally agree. That whole vision of, what's the reason we're in business, and why are you working here? As an employee, having that clarity and peace of mind of kind of why do I do the tasks I do is huge. Yeah, so totally resonate with that. Sahil, what's your thoughts on this?
I think I have a slightly different perspective here. While I completely agree with everything that has been said, I think many a times at the workplace, we don't let people be who they are. And that is where the problem starts. And we give it a wonderful fancy name of saying psychological safety, But at the bottom of the pyramid, what we're really talking of is, for example, can Karan just come and walk into a meeting and just think and say what he feels? Or is he going to wonder, oh, if I say this, how will this get perceived? Or if I say this, will people think of me in this manner? Or if I say this, will it be a career limiting move? Now, if those are the thoughts that are running in his mind, just as an example, what you're going to be ending up doing is you're going to be creating an environment where people can't be themselves. And it's very nice. We spoke about this, my co panelists spoke about this a little earlier about having that plastic face, putting that facade on, camouflaging stuff. Just think of it, right? As humans, if we camouflage ourselves, there'll be a time till when we can do it. Beyond that, we won't be able to breathe. And therefore, my mantra is very simple: be real, keep it real, and let people be who they are by
Yeah.
creating a psychologically safe space to be.
Yeah, and it drains the energy out of us, doesn't it, when we have to live up to kind of what we think we should be. So absolutely. Amin, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I will just like look from a different perspective about the workspace, because I'm also a remote work expert, and what we have been witnessing was a shift from office based way of working to more hybrid or even remote work. So, and when I'm working with companies to help their transition to this new way of working, I say this is a mindset change. This is not only changing the place where you work, but this is a change in your mindset. So for the leaders as well, it's really important that they walk the talk. So if they are just like saying something, but the culture wise, they're not, exemplifying that, and that's not going to happen. If you're, I mean, I call it the intention and action gap. We are all having good intentions with our employees. No one's just like doing it on purpose, that's I want to hurt my employee. No one is just like thinking about that. We all act with good intentions, but what happens, the action is not always in line or in sync with the intention. So it's really important for the leaders to exemplify and to be the role model for their employees, so that it becomes the culture of the company, so that they are just like the behaviors are rooted. And I think that's why it's really important to change it in on three levels. It has to change with the mindset, the emotions, and the behaviors, because otherwise it's not going to be a sustainable change. And in order to do so, i would I would advise the leaders to revisit their culture, to map their company culture, to see they give feedback, how do they convene, how do they do their meetings, what are their norms, what is okay to do in the company, what is not okay to do in the company. And all of those things they have to revisit, and just like work with the a project team or like the employees, depending on the size of the company, and to redesign the culture, the company culture. So it's not just like something on their website that okay, we're changing, but it becomes their culture, and that something that they live every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to add something
May I
here.
add? I'd like to add something to that too as well. Great conversation. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I
Okay,
think,
Karen.
there's a Portuguese saying which says that hell is full of people with good intentions. Yeah. Now the thing is, just having good intention is not going to do the work, right? And as you're saying, the intention and
Exactly.
action gap, the best, the in between, there is a talent, there's an experience, there's there's skill set. Everything falls under that in between the intention and the action. And interestingly, today is 15th, and it's a special day. You know why? Because we are shutting down our office and we are shifting to completely remote working from today onwards. And last 1.5 year, our team has size has grown. We kind of have added a lot of people in our team, and I really found that this is a very very interesting model. Like working remotely is help can you can actually grow, and this is what we want to prove and showcase. We thought, okay, let's move fully remote working model and actually experiment and show things that how how you can still grow your business, and work remotely. An interesting thing here is that I feel one thing that has really changed, in this, as a leader, I personally feel that, that the earlier leadership style was, give an order and expect the work to be done. Now, you need to have that sense of gratitude in your heart when somebody is doing the work for you. You need to have that gratitude in your heart, whichever way you express this is up to you. But first of all, you need to feel that sense of gratitude. Wow, I'm so grateful that somebody is doing this for me. And even if remote working, you have an opportunity to do work from with people and talent and skills from across the globe, and which is really very fascinating, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. India, sorry, you can go ahead.
Dr. Elia?
Well, I was going to say about how we show up. The great American author Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear a word you're saying." Basically, we have to walk the talk. We can't say one thing and act a different way, show up, because people see totally through that. So we have to walk the talk as leaders, and that's how you create the culture of inclusivity, and a culture of love, and a culture of happiness, and a culture of kindness, and a culture of collaboration. It starts from the top.
Absolutely. Just to kind of add, I actually watched a film last night called The Snowman, and they don't talk. It's just a movie without words, and I think that relates very much about how we're showing up. Because we don't have to speak. It's our presence and how we are living, breathing our values. Min talked about our emotions and behaviors as well, and it's it, isn't it? How we show up in the world. There's a couple of questions that I'd like to kind of head over to the audience, actually. So I'll throw this one out to Karen first. So Karen, what are the limitations leaders face at the workplace to create that space to allow vulnerability?
Okay, I ask a question, whoever asking this question. Okay, how comfortable you are opening your wardrobe and showing it to the people? How comfortable you are. You're okay, they come, be in your living room, you're okay, you serve them a coffee or something. But you're not okay they coming to your entering your bedroom, right? But you're not even okay, maybe there are one or two people, maybe your family members, your maybe your sister, your brother, they can come sit in your bedroom. But you're not okay opening your wardrobe or letting them open your wardrobe and just peep in. That's exactly what is the limitation people have. They just think that, something inside of me I don't need to show. Maybe since childhood we have been trained in a way that, oh, you're not good like this. Oh, you're not good at this, and you always have to hide. The moment you say I don't know, people make you feel as if you're a fool. You talk about your weaknesses, they want you to cover it up. That the thing is that they always tell you this is messy part of you. You just need to show that nice things about you to the world, and otherwise what will they think of you? Now, what will they think of me if I'm the leader? If I keep on thinking that, I want them to think nice about me. I'll show up that face which, I just want them to see. Now, the limitation is I am not okay to open this wardrobe and have let them peep in. Like, I think Dr. Elia started this conversation by saying that, am I okay showing my vulnerability? And without vulnerability, nothing can move on. Nothing will work in this. And that
Yeah.
vulnerability is just like that, allowing others to peep in first. If I am okay to be vulnerable with you, you'll be okay to be vulnerable with me. I can
Mhm.
discuss about my fears, my weaknesses, you'll be okay to share yours. But
And
have this
if
communication.
people, I think sometimes people hear the word vulnerability and it scares them. I mean, nobody
Yeah,
really wants to be vulnerable.
yeah,
What if we changed the word and said, let me show my human side. And my human side includes my bedroom. It
yeah,
includes the, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
not just
yeah,
the living room and the family room and the dining
yeah,
room. The
yeah,
human
yeah,
side includes all of that. Includes the bathroom.
yeah,
Includes everything.
yeah.
So
I think this
let
is
show
interesting
up more
because
human.
we
Mm.
are when we go to the organization, we intentionally don't use the word vulnerability. Suddenly they get scared, as if, you're talking
Right,
about,
right.
maybe they feel vulnerability is about crying. I said, no. If I am a leader messing up, I don't know what to do, I don't want people to know that I don't know what to do. I'll end up, what is easier for me, continue with my mess, or just go and openly share, guys, I don't know what to do, I messed up, can you, let's brainstorm. No, the first part is easier to mess up and continue with the same mess up, but the vulnerability need lot of courage and lot of strength. People
Yes.
are not
Yes.
courageous, and that's why they feel vulnerability is weakness. And it's easy to say that it's for the weak. Then if I say it's for the weak, I'm not showing it means I'm courageous. But actually, it's the other way around. I am weak, and I don't have the courage to show who I really am, because since childhood I've been trained that, oh, what you really are is not good. You need to hide it from the world.
Yeah.
That need to go away.
By the way, I'm really glad that no one has a virtual background now, because even like when you think about the first days of pandemic, everyone was just like, they were not comfortable with their just like the place that they were just like connecting from, or just like their children or their pets just like making an appearance. But now even that has become normal, and that is normal. I mean, if you are just like at home, why would your kid not make an appearance, or like your pet? And I think that also reminded each other that we are humans.
Yeah,
So it's not only like Mina at work, some another person, and Mina at home, another person. There's only one Mina,
yeah,
and no matter where I am, it's the same person.
yeah,
And so I should not be putting that, the plastic mask on me when I'm at work. This is me with like everything, with my flaws, with my like
yeah,
everything.
yeah. The interesting part of virtual background, in virtual background you disappear sometimes, and then you come back. You're invisible, and then you come back. This is actually what it is. Some
That's very
people get
symbolic, though. It's very symbolic what you just said. That's beautiful. I'm going to use that. I'm
yeah,
going to use that. That's very symbolic. If you're using a virtual background, we don't get all of you. We get pieces
yeah,
of you, depending
yeah,
where
Yeah.
this is real. So let's get real then, basically.
yeah,
And
exactly.
interestingly, I read about KPMG, Sahil. So I don't know if you have more about this, but very much there's a section that talks about courageous conversations and lived experiences. And was it about 11,000 hours were spent having these conversations where people were sharing their thoughts, their ideas, insights, actions, and kind of allowing that authentic person to come out to build true trust and connection. So do you want to elaborate on that and what was happening?
I think, the irony has been everyone wants to be an alpha male, everyone wants to be an alpha female. At every point in time, everyone's a rock star. But what I've typically seen in my own personal experience is the guys who were rock stars pre-pandemic really didn't stand the test of time through the pandemic. And the average Joe sitting out there, who you never thought is someone who would really merely make the headlines in these difficult times, really stood up, went way beyond his or her call of duty to actually go out there and save lives. And in cases where certain lives were lost, actually paused, as you very rightly said in the beginning, and said, okay, let's pause. This is a moment of grief. You can't keep jumping from one Zoom call to another and think the show must go on. We can't keep galloping 0 to 100 at 6 seconds. It's all right if this doesn't happen today. The world is not coming to an end. We aren't doctors on the front line saving lives. We aren't soldiers standing at the border protecting our country. We are working in our respective organizations. So it's all right if we don't do it today. And I think that has been one of the fundamental shifts. And if you ask me, that's the best thing. If I have to be very positive and optimistic, that's the best thing that we've learned as a human race from this pandemic. That it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to pause. It's okay to go back and very politely say, I'm sorry, I don't think this can be done today. And this is more to do with a certain geography where work life balance, as Karan mentioned, doesn't really exist. I'm sure in different parts of the world, there are different connotations and definitions of what would classify as work life balance. But at least in this part of the world, we've really evolved, if I may say, as the human race.
Thank you. And Min, was there anything else you wanted to add around kind of that mindset shift?
Well, as I said, I think that the mindset shift also was towards being more flexible.
Mm.
And that means like even moving towards remote work. So that's to allow people whenever and however they would like to work. Because I was the country representative for Elance. It used to
Mm.
be Elance, now it's Outwork, and it was like 9 years ago. And we had this, quote. We were saying that work is not a place anymore. So
Mhm.
when we say I'm going to work, it's not necessarily a place anymore. It's what we do. And the important thing is, I think the major shift was work needs to be something, as I said at the beginning, it needs to be something in line with your purpose, because we all have a role in this life. And it's all about finding that role. Because if you are in other person's shoes, you're not going to perform well and it's going to be effortful. So it's really the thing is, I think the mindset shift that we see today is finding that sweet spot in our lives, like finding that perfect role that you are born for. Because it's now time not to compare us with others.
Yeah.
It's like being authentic, it's being unique, because we are just like as our like fingerprints, we are really unique. And I mean, think about all the combinations, all the emotions, all the mindsets, how unique we can be, like billions of people. And we are just like, this is like the quest for like, trying to find what your best self is. So I think that's the biggest major mindset shift.
Beautifully put. And so let's take it up one more gear. What does happiness at work really look like? So we're kind of like getting into a little bit of the kind of that show. So, and how do you lead it? So if you're kind of thinking about, yeah, what does that look like? That definition of happiness at work, and then how do you lead it? Over to you, Karen.
See, I think uh, the basic foundation which we all have been discussing here is, like Meena is also just now said, when we're talking about happiness at work, actually this is just a marketing term, I would say. It's actually happiness for self. Yes, you good, because at the one side, if you're saying there's no, work and personal and there's one meaning going everywhere, right? So there's no work and there's no personal, it's actually happiness in general. Yes, just to be very specific, related to the, the systems and the procedures and everything related to the workplaces. Yes, it's about creating the space where people can feel it's okay to be who I am. Yes, it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to share my fears without the fear of being judged. I think this is what Project Aristotle also talked about, and this is exactly what it is. And that's what that's about, I think 7 years ago, when Google came up with Project Aristotle. But this is what is real now. Yeah, so I think that's what is happiness at workplace, where you create a kind of culture where people can be who they are. They don't have to pretend, they don't have to fear other people's judgments. Yeah, if we can create that culture at the organization, I think then you've done more than enough, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, totally. I think, sometimes we can overcomplicate things, and actually keeping it simple is kind of the key. So Dr. Elia, what about yourself? How do you feel that, if you had to kind of say what happiness at work actually looks like, and how do you lead it?
Well, first of all, you know that I'm a happiness expert. That's what I do. I mean, that's like I'm the happiness doctor. So for me, this is very close to my heart, and I'm very passionate about happiness. And I just need to remind everybody that, the great Greek philosopher Aristotle, over 2,500 years ago, said that happiness is the whole purpose and meaning of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. Now, think about what that statement says. Happiness is the most important thing for all of us. Having said that, I because people all talk about life work balance, I think that's just a phrase that needs to be removed from the dictionary. There is no such thing as life and work balance. That's totally elusive. We need to have a discussion about life work integration, because that's much more accurate. So I think even when we have these panel discussions, I think we need to move away from this life work balance and say, how can I integrate my personal life and my work life? And of course, this hybrid and remote work has, I believe, made it a little bit more easier to begin to understand what integration looks like. Because balance is it's just elusive. It doesn't work. There's no such thing. I'm 50% balanced between my work and my life. There's no such thing. But I integrate my work, and there's some weeks that maybe I work a little bit more, and there's some other weeks that perhaps I practice greater self-care, and hopefully I can integrate those two things throughout my week and throughout the month and throughout the year. So it's all about integration. That's my take on it. Forget the word balance.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, how it goes back to that, how you do one thing, you do everything. It's kind of that bringing everything together. So totally relate. Sahil, what's your thoughts on what does happiness at work look like and how do you lead it?
I think what's very important is every person out there has something that someone else wouldn't have. So, what you have, which is very unique to you, that you bring to the table, would be very, very different from what Doc has, or what Karan has, or what I have, or what the other panelist has. And therefore, the ability to get down to the level of identifying that and giving people challenging projects to work in that space is pure happiness. At the end of the day, you may say, I will reward people well, I will recognize people well, but that happiness to my mind is very momentary. You give someone a 50% hike, person will be happy. A month later, the person will say, oh my God, the culture of this place is like this, they'll get into a crib mode. But when you, on a daily basis, ensure that the kind of work the person does makes the person come back to doing that all over again. And if you can reach a stage where the person doesn't really leave it till he does it or till she does it, I think that is true happiness. Because in every organization, irrespective of geography, there would be challenges and there would be distractions and there would be derailers. But what really keeps you happy is that sense of accomplishment, the sense of going out there, creating something, the sense of going out there and achieving something or winning in the marketplace or building an innovative product, or if you're in R&D, getting a formula that is actually going out there to go to save lives of people. And I think that happiness is absolutely unparalleled,
Yeah,
far more
beautifully.
sustainable.
Yeah. So that kind of meaning, pleasure, accomplishment, you know, being a social being, being around people, being part of something bigger, part of the story. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing. And Min, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's so simple. As you said, we're sometimes overcomplicating things, and it's just like so simple. Let them be. So, I mean, if you just like give the space, allow them to be who they are, then I think it's the only way that you can just like have those people happy. Because it depends on, I mean, happiness is just like so, personal. So something that makes me happy cannot make you happy or would not make you happy. So like I was at a conference and I was like giving this talk about remote work and how it's just like, has a positive effect on your well-being and just like how to, make your employees happy. And one of the founders, he told me that he did everything to make their employees happy, and he built like even a great gym at the workplace, and people were not using it. And so I asked him, I mean, do you like sports? And he said, yes, I love sports. And I exercise every day. I said, okay, you built it for yourself. Did you ask your employees if they wanted to exercise at the workplace? Because like being a woman, I would not be happy with just like taking a shower in the morning and just like, starting the work. But if I were given the choice, I think is a really an important word here. If I were given a choice, I would ask for a voucher, like a discount at the nearest gym to my home. So that's the key. I mean, listen to your employee, listen to what they need to say, listen to like what they say about what makes them happy. So I think that's really essential, listening to your employees, understanding what makes them happy, and just like giving them that space to be, just be.
It's a really,
And I
really
want to
important.
add something that Mina said. Can I add something that what Mina said, which I think is beautiful? Um, way too often, companies have what they call exit interviews, like when an employee leaves. And obviously, during this great resignation, there's lots of exit interviews. That's a false narrative. What companies need to be doing is having stay interviews. And stay interviews actually happen like after the initial onboarding, a week later, 30 days later, 60 days later, 90 days later, where you actually begin to have these heart to heart discussions with your employees. So you know that, you know what, you can build a multi-million-dollar gym. I'm never going to work. That's not what does it for me, but I could use something else. It's only when you know your employees and what they want that you can create that culture of happiness. If you're going and doing what you think without having buy-in and without communicating, without, more importantly, listening to your employees. So stay interviews are crucial to the success of a company. And I mean, I use stay interviews with, regardless of the number of employees that they have, stay interviews, not exit interviews. By the time you get to the exit interviews, it's too late. You've already lost some great talent there. So to get to what Mina said, you have to have those stay interviews consistently.
And I totally agree. I think the exit interviews, to be honest, people don't tell the truth either. So, you know, it's important to know what the pulse is going on in your organization whilst you've still got the team there. You know, people don't generally leave an organization, they leave their boss, you know, because it's that feeling, isn't it? I'm quite conscious of time. We're kind of fast approaching, you know, the end of the session. I want to just show my appreciation and gratitude to all of you guest speakers here today, sharing your views on that happiness advantage, happiness at work. And, you know, we will be bringing further sessions to you over the coming months, all in the theme of the head heart, and bringing that compassion to work, getting the leaders to really think about how important it is to really focus on how engaged our workforce is. We know that when we have happy employees, they are more engaged, they're more productive, they're more creative, they're more part of that big story and helping you to make sure that your values come alive. So please just thank you so much for your time today. If you have any other further questions, please do reach out. You know, all of us here are more than happy to answer any questions that you have, or how you can integrate this feeling of happiness at work in your organization. So thank you very much from Team Happitude.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.